You never know when disaster will strike. Don't count on your government to save you. 20-year-old Watcher Society has hardcore information you will need to survive what's coming. The Watcher's Prophecy News is for you. Come hear my outstanding commentary on the end of days, government cover-ups and blind deceptions, evil tyranny exposed. We're not going to let Satan deceive another life. We do Bible prophecy in the news with your host, me, Mars, the Watcher Society. I want you to tune in every Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on www.kdov.us for these groundbreaking revelations. Now tonight on KW Radio, America's premier Christian radio station, I want to get into some recent news that has come to me through various sources that indicate a great and vast shift in the paradigm of things. Scientists have heard hugely unusual messages from deep space. That's right. That's right. We're going to break this tonight, and hopefully when this is announced, you can say that you heard it here first. That they think are coming from aliens, real aliens. This is the deception. Currently, these reports are now making huge waves and ripples everywhere, particularly at JPL and NASA, and over 100 other foreign governments, in a increasing chatter internationally that the time is almost here for this event. Full disclosure. That's right, we're talking about aliens and UFOs at the moment. What these things might actually be, you've heard many other shows with me that have indicated my opinions on these things, what they actually are, but a new analysis of these strange modulations that are coming to Earth now in a very tiny set of stars that appear to indicate that it could be coming directly from extraterrestrial intelligence that is looking to alert us to their very existence. That's right. This new report that I'm reading from finds that the specific modulations are just in 234 stars of the 2.5 million stars that have been observed during a survey of the sky. They do not know why that just these 234 are transmitting this same signal, same exact signal. In fact, the signal from star 1 of 234 is the same as signal 234. All these signals are the same. That is very strange. No set of stars or worlds that we know of do this. The work found that a tiny fraction of them seem to be behaving very strangely, sending these signals to Earth. There appears to be no obvious explanation for what is currently going on, and it's leaving many scientists behind the paper to conclude that these messages are indeed coming from aliens. In fact, the world's top mathematicians are currently working right now upon this signal. You're not even being told what this signal is. We're going to get into this. We find that the detected signals have exactly the shape of a extraterrestrial intelligence. These are square waves and not necessarily anything that can be generated naturally. These signals are predicted. I predicted them in several other broadcasts, and therefore I'm in agreement with the scientists' hypothesis that we may have indeed contacted some form of life out there. Now, there are two scientists in the forefront of this, Mrs. Bora and Mrs. E. Trotter. they have come forward in this paper to admit that there are certain facts that you might need to know really soon that are coming right down the pike. The fact that now they're only found in a very small fraction of these stars within a very narrow spectral range and location, centered near the spectral type of the sun, is also in agreement with the ETI hypothesis that the stars in most of these systems match very closely to our own sun. Research has appeared in the Journal of Publications of the Astronomical Society of the Pacific under the title Discovery of Peculiar Periodic Spectral Modulations in a Small Fraction of Solar Star Types. And it is a prelude. This paper, by the way, was immediately snatched up by the UN, and UN nations now are discussing this openly on the floor of the United Nations. That's right there in New York. It appears to have been originally suggested that these same signals probably are from extraterrestrial intelligence, and that many of the scientists that have examined them so far all agree. Now, it is a setup this year to look for alien life. I want you to listen to me very closely. It's being supported by people including Stephen Hawking and Mark Zuckerberg, that's right, founder of Facebook, that said that the message was not only promising, but they said that further work will need to be done. This is the stalling tactic. Further work needs to be done before they can unequivocally be attributed and make this announcement about finding alien life abroad. Now soon this statement, this announcement, this grand thing of alien life found will be all over Facebook and everywhere else. And Mark himself is gearing up for such an announcement from this find by already making a grand Facebook alert page. That's right. Really and truly. That will be put on everyone's profile the very moment that they believe they have confirmed, or that the timing is right, that they have found aliens. I think they are just now waiting for the exact moment when they can do this for the maximum shock value. Mark Zuckerberg goes on to say that only 1 in 10,000 objects with these unusual spectra seen by Bohr and Trotta are certainly worthy of additional study. We may be on the very verge of contact, and we're gearing up to let this be known all over the world. This is Mark Zuckerberg. He's about to tell you about these aliens. Get ready. Next Facebook friend you might have may be from Alpha Centauri. However, extraordinary claims, they do require extraordinary evidence, as Carl Sagan said. And it is too early to unequivocally attribute these proportion signals to the activities of any extraterrestrial civilizations. It might just be some anomaly that we're not aware of. Folks, they know the truth and they're hiding it, and later in the show, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to prove they've known all along. Now, these internationally agreed upon protocols for searches for evidence of advanced life beyond Earth, that's SETI, require candidates to be confirmed by an independent group using their own telescopes, and for all natural explanations to be exhausted before they invoke the final, the aliens are here, the extraterrestrial agents, as a grand explanation. Want to be careful, Mark said. We must be careful to work, and that we work hard to undertake and examine and determine all these false positive rates to rule out any natural and instrumental explanations, but most importantly, to confirm these detections now using 2 or more independent telescopes. Now that was about a month ago. I've got an update. This is an update from our last UFO show, so I'm going to go ahead and spread this now and let you know about it a little bit early. The University of Arizona, as most may know, let's get into a little history of this. The Vatican and the Jesuits name a telescope April 23rd of 2010, the Lucifer, and it's housed, as many know, at Mount Graham. And these critics wonder, are the evil ones planning a staged end-time scenario? The answer is yes, they are. University of Arizona, together with the Vatican and Jesuit order, announced just this week that its named newest high-power telescope instrument that has recently been upgraded, Lucifer, is now looking into these signals. That's right. There's been a great deal of speculation among Vatican critics why, in the first place, the Jesuit order is allowed to build a huge stellar observatory on Mount Graham, Arizona, on Indian holy ground in cooperation with state-run University of Arizona, even defying Arizona law. Because there are some things bigger than little bitty laws coming down the pike. With the name of Lucifer, critics claim the Vatican has showed its true colors, using God and Jesus as shields for their true master, Lucifer, whom they are desperately looking for from the sky. According to an article in Popular Science by Rebecca Boyle, the new instrument with this evil-sounding name is now fully engaged, helping scientists to see how these stars are born, but now more importantly, interpreting this deep space signal from these aliens Mark Zuckerberg is now discussing openly. Lucifer stands for, take a deep breath, Large Binocular Telescope, Near Infrared Utility with Camera and Integral Field Unit for Extragalactic Research. That's the name of this thing. And yes, according to Popular Science, it is named for the devil, whose name itself means the morning star. However, according to a spokesperson for the University of Arizona, it wasn't meant to invoke any connotations of evil. Even the Jesuits will tell you this. Oh, we didn't want you to think about the devil naming our prize billion-dollar telescope Lucifer. Now, Lucifer has 3 interchangeable cameras. One has recently been so upgraded that it can literally view a dime on Jupiter. That's correct. You wouldn't think anything could do that, but apparently we now have this technology. It is set up to do spectroscopy. I love these words. In different resolutions. It has a large field of view and high resolution capabilities, which allow a wide range of observations. Now, folks, we're going to get in real deep right here. We're going to dive in. This may astound you some. Critics are now shaking their head even more. They're wondering why the Vatican would have its own observatory and why they would have the audacity to name this new telescope after the devil himself, if they were not indeed looking for such a thing to confirm. Now, Mitch Batros is a organizer with Telescope and the Jesuits, and in a recent telephone call, he has told me it is for the purpose, this is a quote from Mark Mitch Albatross, for the purpose to monitor a warning presented in the Bible. Really? And he goes on to say, well, it could be just some asteroid coming our way, like wormwood coming from the New Testament book of Revelations, saying, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as if it were a lamp, and it fell in the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains and waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. It's in Revelations 8, 10, and 11, the King James Bible. But further talking to this gentleman, I have discovered that it goes much deeper. Now, how much deeper can this go? Some say it's possible that the truth is out there, but this very week it was rented, the Lucifer telescope, with Dr. Gio Regatoli stating, one of the observers that is looking into these 243 planets that are transmitting this signal, that we now have verified these signals from these 243 planets as both observed and recorded by more than one telescope, believed to be a simple mathematical formula, and for sure something or someone civilized out there. Did you hear that? Now, folks, this is still a secret. They have yet to make the big release, so it's not that we can really confirm all this right now, but we can confirm that right now we are indeed receiving signals from other worlds. That's a remark right out of Arizona, right from the Lucifer telescope. Yes, sir, indeed. This does go deeper. I'm going to get to this, how much deeper. You're about to be shocked. Now, we know Hillary Dillery Killery, is about to start a upcoming war, should she steal the election. And if she does, then she will usher in the exact circumstances needed for the Great Deception. Also, and this will have many demonic ramifications through the judgments of nations and the start of nuclear war that will claim the lives of over 2 billion people, with many more dead or dying in the ashes. This Great Deception will both be the arrival prior to the conflict, this grand announcement that we have not only made contact with extraterrestrials, but they have come here now as we may have contacted them back. Yes, it's the word from Mark Zuckerberg. We may have contacted them back by some inadvertent means. You know, they will come back, and we will be all in awe should they come back and stop the nuclear war halfway through after millions are dead. Everyone will believe. We don't know all the details of this plot. I admit that. But we know war is on the very way. The supernatural things that are going on, the very destiny of our nation, the choices we're about to make. Could Putin be true to his word in front of the world that if Hillary wins, it would be war? So let us be clear. I'm not trying to impede anyone with fear. I know that the time is, however, going to come where if Putin, the midget, decides to attack, a sneak attack, it's during the election, and the results come streaming in on television, and everyone's attention is there, eyeball on every television. Zechariah said, it will come as a thief in the night. No one will be aware. Everyone is least expecting it. The election would be, let's say, a good time for Putin to do this. Now, I have more words on that and how this ties to this UFO thing. We're getting to all this. We're going to tie this up in a nice, neat little bow. Now, regardless of these events, they're going to come anyway. And we will see massive things that defy the understanding and will sway our heads. So we must be steady fast in the Word of God. And we must not let the wind of things blow out our candle, and let our light shine and be heard, that God would, as we can believe, answer prayer and make sure that our nation has a chance. The ones praying so hard for our way of life and our hope for our children and our children's children, and we must find a route to peace. We must. Does it look like it's going that way? Since we're all in this entropy system. Entropy is for those that don't know, go look it up. Entropy is a system in which things break down over time. Everything breaks. Everybody knows that. It's part of the curse of the earth that was put on the earth after we exited Eden. We're all trapped in this entropy system, including Satan. See, that was God's plan in the end, to make sure that Satan was stomped out. Satan is trapped in this entropy system. I'm going to explain that too and tie this all in. His plans are very much exposed because in an entropy system, all things degrade. From dust form to dust shall we become. And thus Satan and his demons are trapped in this curse of the earth after Eden. Entropy system is closing in, and the devil sees it shrinking, and other things and plans and lies that are of his that are all falling apart. And as they do, there are other things that are not in the corruptible system, but are reborn into a incorruptible system, a non-entropy system. For eons and ages we will reign with the Almighty, those that believe in Christ, and know a system that expands and does not inwardly collapse. The devil is indeed trapped in this entropy system with the unbelievers. Now the devil, knowing he's corrupted, and in a corrupted entropy system, knows it as Jesus has the keys of hell even, and the devil cannot escape, and the ends of entropy and the final words of Christ will banish him forever. But there is a plot by these demonic entities. You see, these aliens had a plan all this time, and I believe this. You know, these sitting leader demons in the pit had a long time to think about a revenge plot. How to further the aims of Satan and escape the entropy system. The story of how the angels fell from the non-corrupted to the corrupted, and how Christ came to give a path for his believers to also come into the uncorrupted system. No, science says that 95% of all matter is dark matter. 95%? Really? So think of this as you hold your next coffee cup, that 95% of what you're holding is dark matter. So aptly named, it may indeed be the other way around. But it may be the uncorrupted side of things, while the devil and the corrupted here on earth live in the 5% entropy system that is corrupted and is indeed collapsing. Every day the news just keeps getting worse. So these demons in this pit thought, and they come up with the idea, we'll pose as these aliens, these ancient astronauts of old that maybe did come here, the benevolent ones. We'll just pose as these aliens, and we'll just come right down to your next contestant on The Planet is Ripe. To fool us into believing that they are the same as these old ancient astronauts that came long ago, but whom we really know are indeed demons. I'll tell you a little story. My mom lived and worked out in California for many years. She was a key punch operator before the computer age, and she, believe it or not, worked at the payroll window for MGM Studios. She paid many of the stars their paycheck, met and even dated a few well-known celebrities. I can say that's my mother's claim to fame. But she knew Jackie Gleason, and of a story, and I'm going to tell you this story. It is indeed about Jackie Gleason and Richard Nixon, and I believe you're going to like this because it tells the truth of things too deep for those that don't want to believe it. See, Gleason was a believer, but he didn't have enough evidence as a normal person, as me or you or anyone else, to actually know these things were true. What are these things? Gleason was an extremely serious armchair UFO researcher. Many don't know that. That's right, Jackie Gleason. And he prided himself on his huge collection of UFO-related books. He had almost everything that you could collect, numbered into the thousands. And soon as a new title come out, even in Europe or the UK, Jackie had a copy sent to him immediately so that he could bone up and be the latest and knew the most about this subject. Might say he was Hollywood's little UFO star. He knew so much. Little did Mr. Gleason suspect that his interest in that topic would one day gain him access to something that most people would never even believe. Coming from Hollywood, being a Hollywood actor, he says, well, you know, I'm sure one day we will have the technology to portray these things on television, but right now, I'm telling you what I seen and the exact story of what happened, and I have no reason to lie. It's in Jackie's autobiography. And we're going to leave others who shared his interest either skeptical or forever jealous. I don't know which, but I know that indeed he did see these things. Now, my mom knew him, like I said. She was a lady that worked at the pay office, and many of these stars got paid that window. And she come by this story, and it's later been reprinted, not exactly the way I'm telling it, but it was later reprinted nearly word for word in Jackie's autobiography and deathbed confession about these things. You wouldn't think this coming from Jackie Gleason, but here it is, folks. Was a chance conversation one afternoon back in 1974 while Jackie was in Florida. He was playing golf with one of his regular partners and very best friend in the entire world, President at the time, President Richard Nixon. Jackie Gleason and Richard Nixon were very best friends. Jackie had mentioned his interest in UFO and his large collection of books, and the president, who had been in Jackie's house, admitted that I also share your interest, and I also, this is Nixon, have a sizable collection of UFO-oriented materials of my own, including some things that I can't even talk about. That's out of Nixon's mouth. Now, at the time, the president said little about what he actually knew, but things were going to change drastically later that very same night as, it became hot toddy time for a few nips. One can only imagine Gleason's surprise when President Nixon showed up at his house around midnight in a limousine motorcade. That's correct. It was a limousine and a Secret Service detail. And Nixon was driving the car. Very unusual. Jackie asked him why he was there. Nixon told him that he wanted to take him somewhere and he wanted to show him something because it was troubling him as President of the United States and as a Quaker man. A lot of people think Nixon was Tricky Dick. He hasn't done anything compared to Hillary. We're not going to get into that right now, but let's continue on with this. Now, he got into the president's car, and they ended up in the gates of Homestead Air Force Base, passed through security with no problem, and drove to the far end of the base at a tightly guarded building. At this point, I will have to quote directly from Jackie himself. from an interview that he gave UFO researcher and author Larry Warren on a deathbed confession. So you're about to hear this, and folks, this is going to send chills through your spine because I believe it. I believe what my mother told me, and I definitely believe this. Now, we drove to the far end of the base in a segregated area, finally stopping near a well-guarded building. Security police saw us coming and just sort of moved back as we passed them, seeing the presidential seal, and entering the structure unimpeded. There were a number of labs we passed through first before we entered a section where Nixon pointed out what he said was the wreckage from a flying saucer enclosed in several large glass cases. That's right. Next, we went into the inner chamber, and there were 6 or 8 of what looked like glass-top Coke freezers. Inside them were the mangled remains of what looked like to be children. And I was amazed and surprised and speechless, and I didn't know exactly what to say. Then upon closer examination, I saw that some of the other figures looked quite old. Most of them were terribly mangled as if they had been in a car wreck. Gleason was understandably very excited about all of these things, but also quite traumatized. And he said he couldn't eat or sleep properly for weeks afterwards. And Nixon turned and said, "You know, I can't either, and that's why I've got to show someone. I've got to tell someone. I wanted you to see this, Jackie. I wanted you to see this tonight." Found himself drinking heavily afterwards, until he was able to regain some composure many weeks later. Now, his wife at the time, Beverly, and Jackie was a ladies' man, so, you know, I'm not saying anything detrimental about Beverly, but she recalls him being out very late that particular night and actually seeing the Nixon motorcade pull up in front of their home, so we have a second witness to that. When she and Gleason were splitting up, and she told the story to a writer at Esquire magazine, which printed the entire article, revelations between her and the entertainer deteriorated, and Gleason became very upset and angry that the story had ever been made public because it made Gleason look like a crackpot. And for this reason, many people, including Beverly herself, continued for many years to degrade him on that subject. But I know Gleason was there, and I know that he's seen what he's seen. So you don't really have to wonder at the truth of the story. However, in this interview with Larry Warren, who was invited to Jackie's house in person because Gleason wanted to hear firsthand about Warren's experience at Brentwaters Air Force Base in England, it was clear that Jackie was being honest and completely sincere. You could tell that he was very sincere. He took the entire affair very seriously. And I could tell you that he wanted to get this matter off his chest because it wasn't just him hurting. It was that he knew his friend Richard Nixon was hurting also. And that there was no real outlet but the media. And that to do so may jeopardize some things, but according to him, it would never be believed. That's why tonight I am telling you this story, telling you all of this. Jackie felt just like I do that the government needs to come clean and tell us all it knows about these space visitors. It's time they stop lying to the public and release all the evidence they have, and when they do, we'll be able to do and know the same things that Jackie Gleason seen that night. The United States government knowledge about UFOs and their occupants exists at the very highest levels of security, above even top secret atomic weapons and things of that nature, information that is so highly guarded and imparted on a strictly need-to-know basis that this has left many presidents in the dark on the subject because some were not told, according to Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon was one of them. One can only imagine what technology and evidence of life outside this earth does exist that God has created. There's nowhere in the Bible that says we are alone. And I imagine that having created the angels, and even others if he has, and that if we are indeed not alone, that it should not be a horrible shock that others were created, but for the demons to use this rouse upon us, this great deception, will be their gain, because everyone on earth, at least, will fall for it. The black corners and hidden labs of American military and anywhere else, for anyone who doesn't believe that this situation is real, the story about Jackie Gleason is just the very tiny tip of the iceberg. We may be waiting for this disclosure to come on Facebook, as I mentioned earlier, because we have waited a very, very long time indeed, and Jackie's dream of government disclosure will soon come true. Even Hillary has said at the DNC Research Committee prior to the DNC convention that why don't we just go ahead and tell them about it already, in reference to a question someone put her about aliens. Now this phony deception, when the government has known about these things for a long, long time, many witnesses, too many cover-ups, too many killings, to keep all these things quiet, certainly wouldn't want to motivate Hillary Clinton to kill anybody else besides the 62 she's already murdered to get to the top. Now we are giving the news today that, hey, guess what, guys? We found them out in deep space, and they may be coming this way, and they're talking to us. And now we have not one, but two large telescopes that have confirmed this, looking at this, and the mathematicians are now involved. And sure, according to them, this is nothing but simple code. Oh, all you conspiracy theorists, all you alike, all you that have these aliens on the brain, or angels and demons or devils, or whoever started World War III, or whatever Hillary and all these other demonic entities have done and hidden under a pantsuit, why would you care? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to kick back and imagine that your paradigm must now shift from the alternate reality to the new reality that I'm here to tell you tonight, because whether or not you want to discuss it, whether or not you want to believe it, this deceit, this great deception that is coming, these so-called aliens, these demons, they're just about to be on full-blown disclosure, and Mark Zuckerberg is determined that you find out. Understand, they're in full-blown disclosure mode, and you heard it here yet again first on the Watcher Society. So don't be shocked when these things come. And we've got so much news, it's not even funny, so we're going to shift a major gear, get into some of this, because it goes on and on. I've got to tie all this stuff together. I've got to make it where you understand the seriousness of what's going on in today's news. It is far more serious than you can believe. Russia has now withdrawn a request to refuel at the Spanish port this week. We know that now. The Russians decided against refueling the warships at Spanish North African port of Ceuta after the Madrid capitalists there, socialists, apparently refused permission in response to concern raised by the United Kingdom, the United States, and NATO, that the Russian carrier and fleet and most of the entire Baltic and Red Sea fleet that were headed to Syria might need refueling and resupplying, but we just can't let you do it here. Larinoff at the UN has told the United States representative that in no way in heck do you get to keep the Golan sector of Syria. In fact, if you stay involved, you will be the next target, and have warned away all United States warships and allies within 100 miles of their fleet off the coast of Syria that they mean business or it's War 3. That's right. But as you know in the news, it can only get worse. China has told Moscow that they will join in the bombing in Syria from their own aircraft carrier. Now, folks, this has huge implications, folks. Huge! It is well-known fact that the nation of Iran today, now we're talking about Iran, we're talking about China, has two chief allies, Russia and China. They've stood by Iran through the thick and thin, especially with all these controlling interests as permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. Without Russia and China, Shiite Iran would have been history and gone with the wind by United States plans decades ago, I believe. But today again, they're proving that they will be prepared to stand in opposition. The largest fleet ever of joint allies, China and Russia, larger than anything the United States can muster to stop them. They're now off the coast of Syria. And like I said, the United States and NATO is not even going to try, because all four are vying for world domination. So also the rest of the world's prophetic nations are aligning themselves either for or against one of two grand global forces. I'm going to explain those. Military intelligence sources report that China sent word to Moscow on Friday, October the 2nd, that J-15 fighter bombers would shortly join the massive Russian air campaign that was launched Wednesday, September 30th, and that China would like to test their new weaponry out on the city. Baghdad was moreover offered Moscow an air defense for targeting Islamic State, and Moscow has joined China in getting all of their aircraft codes so that they will not be targeted by the currently in place anti-air systems that are all over Syria. J-15 warplanes will take off from the Chinese-made Liaoning CV-16 aircraft carrier, which reached Syrian shores on September 26 and has stayed. A lot of people don't know it's still there. According to many news sources, this will be a landmark event in China. It's the first military operation in the Middle East, as well as their own aircraft carriers' first taste of real action under conditions of real combat, dropping experimental ordnance over Syria. See, they're determined not to let Syria be broken up. They're determined to keep Syria. Iran knows our plans. They have told Russia there's too many spies in our government. They know we want the Golan sector because if we get it, we will drill. It's always about oil. The only reason we're even over there is about oil. You name any other reason that we're in Syria, there's really not a good one, unless you want to confront Russia. Thursday night, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi made this comment on the Syrian crisis at the UN Security Council session in New York, saying the world cannot afford to stand by and look on with folded arms, but we must also not arbitrarily interfere in the crisis. It could not be a further statement from the truth. They are now all in. That's right. You heard it here first. China is now all in. No less significant development occurred at the same time between Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi speaking to the US PBS NewsHour. He said would welcome a deployment of Russian troops to Iraq to fight ISIS, the Islamic State, and any of those marauding forces in his own nation. Well, let me give you some breaking news. Russia is now going to send troops, about 1,000, to Iraq, including tanks, to be there in the ongoing battle for Mosul. That's right. You can now add Russia to the list of people there with Turkey and Hezbollah and Iran and the United States and the United Kingdom and the OAE and Kuwait and many others that are there at the battle going on in Mosul. Now, millions are trying to flee this place, and for the United States, Kerry is pushing a humanitarian corridor. The Russians like this idea, but you see, they don't want it to happen because the United States suggested it. They want it to happen because they suggested it, and because of that, the situation on the ground is very tense and changing. And it is becoming more and more obvious with the threats that the Islamic State are giving out that they may very soon bust the dam, leaving the entire place, leaving all of Mosul under 65 feet of water, and the Euphrates going dry. Earlier this month, let's change gears yet again. We're going to shift into yet another gear. Earlier this month, Russian ballistic missile submarine called, I'm probably going to murder this, Potomvinsky, has slipped out of its pier at Severodonetsk for the first time in 16 years. That's right, the sub hasn't moved in 16 years, and it's now moving. It has been retrofitted, and I'm going to tell you how, and you're going to be shocked. This BS-64 Prometsky, which was commissioned in 1986 as Project 667 BDMR Deflin class NATO Delta IV SSBN designated K-64, is no ordinary missile submarine owned by the Russians. Over the course of 2 decades, it has been retrofitted over and over with more and more gear. No one seems to know why it's never left, and they just keep upgrading it. But now it's gone. It's no longer in the sluice. It is gone to sea. This is one massive submarine, folks. It was modified to conduct special operations, but exactly what those missions might be still remains quite a bit of a mystery. But the Plomotsky, man, I murdered that, was photographed leaving the shipyard for the contractor sea trials on October 22nd by Oleg Krasnov, who writes for the BDM, a blog. It's a product of the Moscow-based Center for the Analyst and Strategies and Technologies. It's basically a small think tank for the government that sometimes links information the state wants you to know. But the Protomosky and her sister submarine, the BS-136, the Ordenburg, a former Delta III class submarine, are roughly analogous to the United States Navy secretive USS Jimmy Carter. Now, you may know about that submarine. It's the SS-23, which is a highly modified Seawolf class boat. Now, Carter is roughly 100 foot longer than her 2 Seawolf class sisters, and the addition of a multi-mission platform, naval variants of this kind of sub are now packed and loaded with, now dig this, this is what is now loaded on this Russian submarine. I'm going to get into this. Now, folks, I'm not meaning to scare you. I'm just letting you know the facts as I have found them out, that this Russian submarine has left with 10 of the new Satan missiles loaded. It's taken them a long time to get them sea ready and to put aboard a submarine. These things are the most terrible weapon that has ever been devised by the hand of man that roam the seas in the entire world, in the entire history of the world. Folks, it is now said to be patrolling off the southwest coast of the United States. Now, that's not all. This gets worse. It just keeps getting worse. It just keeps degrading. Now, not just that this sub and skipper had such a big upgrade from the Bolivia Type 2 missiles that it would normally launch. These missiles that were in that are now aboard are in the 10 megaton region. It's a power that will wipe out an entire state the size of Texas upon impact. That's just one missile, and there's 10 of those on the submarine. Nor the names of these such missiles. The Satan missile was named aptly. Instead, there is yet another concern that is more pressing, and that is about the fitness of the commander of that submarine. The U.S. naval sources that I've been able to contact are very worried about something going on right now off our west coast. And if that's not bad enough, and I have this on good authority, and I want everyone to be aware that this could indeed be a fact, as I have no real way to verify this, but I have news from General Franks and his naval contacts that possible the U.S. Navy could be tracking this submarine from space using this very special nuclear technology that tracks all reactors all over the world. And that her commander, this submarine's commander, this Russian commander, is either on a very wicked mission, or this commander has gone rogue, because several Russian trawlers are now also reportedly looking hot and heavy for this submarine only 300 miles from our west coast. You heard that here first. U.S. Navy has not made any official report on this or any announcement on mainstream media. But I can bet you something deeply fishy is going on when Russian ships are looking for one of their own Russian submarines. Now, I have some radio friends that have verified some of these things at 409K. It's a very low frequency. Submarines often use low frequencies to transmit. And this Russian battle frequency, I have been told, is getting reports that they are listening and hearing very serious satellite submarine traffic. It's being gathered in code. And there are several conclusions, but likely deeply chasing this submarine. And U.S. officials are now asking in private, has this sub gone rogue? Could be one of the most critical Red October shockers yet the world has ever heard about. And we are just now breaking this news on the Watcher Society. I don't know if you know or have enough information other than what I'm able to tell you. And the U.S. Navy does not seem to be that concerned that we do not know. And they certainly haven't informed us of their response as of yet. Now, let's shift gears again. As terrible as that was, we have more. It just never ends. Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a second veiled threat to Hillary Clinton now. This is just the other day. Well, I was out on bivouac somewhere out in the mountains. Me and a couple of my Watchers friends decided to get away. I've been under a terrible amount of stress lately, and I've just had to get away. I told all the Watchers I would be gone a couple of days, and I have. I'm back. I'm doing the show right now. But Putin has now issued a second threat to Hillary Clinton, stating that his country will engage in a major confrontation. Did you hear that? With the United States if she continues to provoke the motherland, according to Putin's own mouth. Now, most recall the first threat was even more dramatic about 2 weeks ago from the Duma State Dinner, where Putin said that if Hillary wins, it's war! Now, Putin's only 64 years old. He's accused the Democratic presidential nominee, Hillary, of putting forth continued harsh rhetoric and threats against Russia, and that they must act before she is elected. Did you hear that? Before she is elected. Because of her great threats against Russia for her own political gain, so says the Daily Star, the Daily Telegraph, the New York Times, Drudge, and many others. She is jeopardizing Russian-American relations, according to Putin, in order to gain brownie points internally. I consider this to be very harmful and very counterproductive, Putin recently told reporters in Russia, and will lead to a conflict on a scale the world has never seen. See, these little hints, these little tidbits keep coming out of Russia, and everybody's ignoring them. Nobody's believing anything Putin's saying. But it's not funny anymore. It's not. If somebody out there wants a confrontation, this is not our choice. But this means there will be problems, Putin warned, continuing to play the innocence card. And according to General Franks, it's the only candidate left to the far left that the left feels that it can force Russia and still divide up Syria. But since that plan seems to be off the John Kerry table, Hillary wants to reintroduce it so that there's still a chance for the USA to get the Golan sector of Syria and some grand bargain with Russia that will never happen. Further lead us into a war as Russia wants all of Syria now, and Iran does also, knowing this Nest 3 oil find at the edge of the Golan in Syria is so vital that any nation that gets to pump that will indeed, and this is according to the Russian oil ministry, be the next superpower of the 21st and 22nd century. That's right. Now, the former KGB spy added that Clinton was trying to distract Americans and trying to upset American voters by hacking the country's elections, by unifying and ununifying voters against two common enemies, Russia and Iran. And Putin made no secret over who he favors in the November 8th election. This is the fourth time Putin has said in public that if Clinton wins, it's war. Fourth time! How many times you got to say it, folks? That's why I'm saying, election night, have your go bag ready. It is a great time for the sneak attack. Mrs. Clinton has chosen to take up a very aggressive stance against our country, against Russia. Mr. Trump, on the other hand, calls for cooperation and at least great talks with Mr. Putin about Syria and where we can cooperate instead of where we can divide. At least when it comes to the international fight against terrorism, said Putin. Naturally, we become those who would like to cooperate with us, and we will consider it, according to Vladimir. That's not what their generals are doing. No, sir! They and the puppet masters there have taken this deadly serious. There may even be a rogue out there, as we previously discussed, with the largest populations yet to have now drilled as a nation battle ready. They are battle ready. They have made massive drills and put many of their population underground. These ready intentions of saving some of his folks, as well as making even war preparations that were not even made in the depths of the Cuban Missile Crisis, that he can make, including moving mobile nuclear weapons even to the Alaskan border, which he has done this very week. Now, of course, Obama and all of these threats to Alaska, we're seeing these threats now in the papers. Oh, Alaska! Well, warnings to Alaska. You might get invaded. Of course, Obama isn't going to tell you much, nor really bother you with all these facts of life. And just so you know, when it comes as a sneak attack, they will, of course, deny knowing anything. You remember Hillary's little speech there in the debate. The missiles will hit in 4 minutes. Just 4 minutes. You won't have any warning. The United States has threatened renewed sanctions on Russia if the country did not either implement the plan, this divide up Syria plan, in the coming months, or arrive at a plan on how to do so. But in reality, we only have to want in Syria oil, and nothing else. won't even have a dog in the fight other than this oil and having access to the Golan. And Russia knows this and will do anything to stop John Kerry and keep all of Syria in a state of war, even to keep it from falling into the hands of anyone but themselves. Now, we know John Kerry, we know the Murdochs, we know the Cheneys, we know the Bushes of this world, the Skull and Bones, the Evil Intentions, all of these little groups and societies that take their orders from the Illuminati, from the devil himself, to create such chaos in our world. Hillary right now is taking a nice relaxing spa treatment. That's right, with money donated by the Amanis, the Saudis, and spending that money on her face. She probably needs to. She's currently also in South Florida before headed next to Denver, Colorado, and there suddenly her tour of things ends. So it's very likely she's going underground there because she's even scared of Putin's threats. Threats that she has made has backfired on her tremendously. Just as Donald Trump said. She admits to aggravating Putin as well as many other things that just can't be helped. And we have to stand up to this man. And she has said stopium code in Syria. Really? In my mind, all I can say is what for? Besides that you want to steal some Israeli oil. And then later on are going to accuse, the Bible says later on we'll accuse whatever's left of us, or England or somebody will accuse Russia of wanting to do the same thing, coming for the great spoils. As it appears also there is a meeting of some very big-wig individuals soon at Denver, coming right before the election, or at least underneath the Denver airport. We will keep you informed about what we find out about that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mars, and I thank you very much for being here on KW Radio with me tonight. And thank KW Radio for letting me do this show, and thank all of you who have come to hear it. I'm recovering nicely, and I'm trying to stay to my little self and stress-free. I want to personally thank Roger Dodge, Mr. Sim, and special thanks to Shane Kelly for taking me away this week up into the mountains where I had time to think and decide the future of some things very deeply, and why I did this particular show as a further warning tonight. Watchers, we do need to unite, as one of our former commanders, Alan Mitchum, often says, and find some common ground to keep up the local watchers' meetings, and know that we must internally stay informed, for if the worst does come, we may need some help from our friends, because united, you know that we can make it maybe a little better. But we have Jesus! Praise Jesus for his love and his love of us. And thank you all for your time tonight. This is Mars. I'm out of here until next Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on America's Best, KW Radio. Get with it.